I still find this incredibly annoying with like the amount of millennials that were on the internet talking about something called a Gen Z stare. The reason it was so annoying is because it's not just a chronically online thing for people to say or think shit like that. People in their 20s to 30s maybe staring at people. A customer walks in and they expect to be greeted, or they'll just say hi, how are you, or whatever, and they'll just like ignore them or walk the other way, or they'll ask them a question and they just sort of stare off into space for a little bit, or they'll help them and listen to them and all their concerns and stuff, but they're looking with a specific type of confusion or annoyance. The person looking at them can see that they're taking a bit to process what's going on. Hey, this is what boomers were doing to millennials. This is the constant, boring, tired cycle of like making fun of other generations, as if we aren't all doing the same shit to some degree, right? As if we aren't all going through some shit. When they are asking, hey, what's up with the Gen Z stare? Gen Z responded. They would say a combination of these things. Hey, I have ADHD and sometimes I just zone out. Or sometimes I just stare at people by accident. Nothing to do with the diagnosis, they just do that by accident, right? Or someone, probably a customer or a manager or their coworker, frustrated them really bad and they're still trying to process that interaction, and so it comes off as them just sort of staring at them, zoning out, or ignoring the customer. Or four, people will explain in great detail that somehow unfortunately still isn't enough, that they are going through a lot of stuff and they know that they've been a Gen Z person who does that. And that's usually why, like for instance, their home life isn't that great. They're in a lot of physical pain, or their work life is so stressful, and it has very little to do with each individual customer. It has to do with the workload in combination with the manager poorly managing, or the coworkers being uncooperative, and the minimal pay for all of that. And all of that combined still wasn't enough. And then people try to walk it back like, hey, we millennials were just joking. You know, we're just joking. People did it to us and we didn't care. Y'all talking about the millennial pause and we didn't care. I personally have never heard of the millennial pause, but I'm sure it's a real thing that people talk about. That's not what we're concerned with, though. We're not talking about jokes. And even if you guys want to try to say it was a funny little joke thing, it very well could have been. It's not funny. The reason why it's not funny is because even then, to defend yourself, you guys will say, like, things are worse because people used to be in stores back then. It's not that it's better or worse for each generation. It's just that it's different. Yeah, less people are in the stores, but people are more aggressive. They're a lot more heightened, energetic, you know? And they act differently. They expect different things, especially under the current administration, especially because some people feel emboldened to say disrespectful things to employees and workers. People are very bold these days, but on top of that, people, myself included, are disabled, and it got worse with COVID. So when we say we are dealing with a lot of shit, like from our families, from our home life, from our coworkers, our managers who don't give a shit and who don't do much to help, as well as customers who kind of exacerbate the stress, as well as the economy failing, which means less money to even process any of this shit and just have fun and get a fucking break. You're gonna get more stressed out 20 to 30-year-olds who just sort of look at you and stare at you like you're speaking a different language. Because for a couple seconds, you probably are to them. For a couple seconds, it's probably like you talking to them is the same as them trying to read while they're dreaming. Because that's how stressful life is for people. And even if you guys were trying to say as a joke, even if you guys think it is a joke, it's not funny. And I can attest to this, unfortunately, I am female, and people do that thing. Oh, you're so pretty. Why don't you smile? Why don't you smile? You should smile more. Why are you crying? Why would you smile? Would you believe me if I said that a literal administrator said that to me while I was in therapy, crying to my woman therapist about how I wanted to end it all? Like, I'm crying my eyes out. And then after he left, she looked at me and she was like, didn't you just say that you don't like it when people do that to you? It's not just men either. It's literally everybody. That's why it's not a joke. Because even if women don't go through my type of trauma, and I have a lot of it, even if there are women or men who aren't as disabled as I am, and there are many, I need people to understand that cannot possibly be your biggest problem. It's certainly not mine, right? Many people ignore that I could be in pain, that I'm suffering, and that maybe I just don't want to fucking smile because there's nothing to smile about, but still I get that bullshit, right? And I take it on the chin and I go on about my fucking day. This is probably like 15 minutes to an hour at most out of your day to go shopping, to talk to a fucking employee at whatever front desk. That employee has to deal with 8 to 10 to maybe even 24 hours of the same repetitive BS on top of whatever stress they have at home probably, because we all know work-life balance is bullshit. And I need people to just imagine for a bit before they do shit like this consistently. This person must be going through something that makes them feel like they don't want to smile, that makes them feel like they don't want to engage in small talk right now. Not everything is about you, okay? I swear it's like some people genuinely have this idea that because somebody looks at them and doesn't smile or doesn't want to talk to them, that means that the whole world is against them, that this person in particular doesn't like them. It probably has nothing to do with you. Most likely it has nothing to do with you. And for 2 seconds, imagine what it's like being a woman or a female or a little girl who's going through a lot or just simply wants to relax, and all they hear is smile. Why don't you smile? I really want to harp on this disability thing because COVID happened and it still is happening. It fried many people's brains and bodies. I was already disabled and COVID made my disability worse. On top of being neurologically disabled, mentally disabled, physically disabled, dealing with trauma or stress, and having an uncooperative or unsafe workplace, you have a customer who feels so fucking entitled that you can't just get like 10 seconds to process without it being an internet trend or a meme. And of course, once again, we're reminded that the internet finds it far more funny to just point and laugh at somebody than help, which is the problem now. Like, if you guys thought this was so funny, you could have just cracked a joke in your group chat or something and left, like, all of us out of the conversation. But then it's not funny because people are saying this is serious and this is the reason why. People were asking questions, what is up with the Gen Z stare? And that is why. And we can even say that because even if we do say all of these things that are valid explanations, they're considered cop-outs, or we're just arrogant and calling people dumb, or we're just being sensitive and entitled because other generations must have had it so much harder. Of course, it's ridiculous and hypocritical. Again, the whole it's not that deep thing. All those funny jokes that you guys find so funny until somebody speaks up, those jokes are made at the expense of poor people suffering from the economy failing and disabled people constantly being left behind with us. And at this point, I want to know is, when are people going to learn that nothing is going to get better in society if they don't understand that they need to think critically and listen to people when they don't know what they're talking about? And at what point are they going to learn that they are actually the ones entitled for thinking that nobody gets to be annoyed and upset when they start saying shit? that's tone deaf and doesn't make any fucking sense. Is it truly too much to ask that real people's lives, like lived experiences, not be made into a memeified talking point?